Hello, everyone, and welcome to the KeenGamer podcast. I'm your host, Sparkle Callahan, back from vacation, and we got a special episode for you guys today. Joining us for the first time ever, we got Max. Max, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. And if you guys are watching the video version, Max has a Lego BB-1 in the background, and I am so jealous.
He's really cool.
A, your room is clean. B, you got an awesome Lego. And meanwhile, I got stuff that you can't see in the background.
Thank you.
And also joining us, my favorite Scottish guy and the only Scottish guy I know, Daniel Boyd. Daniel, how you doing?
It's a high bar. I'm okay, Mark. How are you, mate? It's good.
Old
It's good to
tired,
see I like the beard that you've got going today. Talk about visual stuff.
We'll get to The Last of Us, but I got inspired. I know. I call it it's weird because I have blonde hair, and then it gets a little darker, and then it's like a ginger beard. So I look like...
As a Scots person, I can relate. As somebody that's from Scotland, and you're speaking to my people.
I am just 100% Irish. There's no spice, no flavor, just Irish.
Listen, not rhyme with the Irish.
But this is the KeenGamer podcast, and we got an awesome episode as we're going to recap Gamescom, which I don't know about you guys, but we'll get into it. I was kind of surprised how good it was with the announcements.
Yep.
But we'll get that into the back half of the episode. We're also going to be covering the EA Amazon rumors, which I have no clue what the hell happened there. Thank you, USA Today, for making my life not fun. I had to do business research. Never fun. But also, we have some controversial PlayStation stuff with price hike. And Daniel, you actually wrote an article all about the lawsuit that's going on.
Yep. Interesting stuff. We'll get to it.
But we also got positive Sony stuff because we also have the Last of Us teaser, which looks amazing. But before we get all into that, let's start with the games we're playing right now. And since I'm a little more topical, I will go first because I've been playing the Cult of the Lamb. Have you guys played that at all?
Yeah, I have played through it, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
I think this is a strong, is it my game of the year? No. Did it go to the top 3? Possibly. And that's saying something because this has been an awesome year for gaming. And if you don't know Cult of the Lamb, you start out as a sacrificial lamb. You're going to get sacrificed. And as you get, sacrificed, you get resurrected by this god, deity, devil, whatever. And you are tasked to spread the good word, start a cult, and defeat the people that sacrifice you. So imagine a very dark Animal Crossing mixed with the roguelike gameplay of Hades, and that is Cult of the Lamb. And if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will.
Is it a 2D Devolver Digital game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was shown. I want to say during the sort of E3 thing that we had recently, the non-E3 show.
The
PC game show, was it? Or it was shown somewhere around there. Yeah, I remember seeing the first trailer. I thought it looked all right. I liked the art style.
Not that I always saw the art style, and then I saw the gameplay. So it's interesting because you do want to go out and fight and go all these dungeons, because when you go to dungeons, you get resources to build your community. But yet again, you do want to focus on your community. And if you don't pay attention to them, they'll die. The cult will turn against you. And it's it is fun, but it's kind of man, this is what being a parent is like, and I hate it.
That's quite cool how they've kind of fangled that mechanic into the game, though, because it's called Cult of the Lamb, and it's got that sort of functionality. That's quite clever. They've kind of actually not just used it as a title, they've actually used it as a function of the game. I didn't realise that.
And it's cool because it's I do want to upgrade my stuff, and as you upgrade your stuff, your followers become more loyal. And unlike Animal Crossing, as I mentioned before, it's honestly so the rotation of everyone coming in, it's a couple hours and boom, they're dead. And it's the benefit, like when you go out to the world, you can find people, recruit stuff, but also while you're in the base camp, you can also have like little side quests, like so you can cook for Cole, and sometimes they might get sick, and no joke, they'll just poop. Poop is actually a mechanic. And there's this one side quest, like someone's like, "Hey, can we feed Max a bowl of poop?" And it's like, do you accept or do you lose faith? I'm like, well, I don't want to lose faith in people, so I gotta feed Max poop.
Yeah, I had that same quest, and I'm like, oh, that was funny. And then he came back a second time. He's like, hey, feed him poop again. I'm like,
like, come on.
I guess I can't. I need the faith. I need it. So
yeah,
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and then he comes back in. He's like, hey, that wasn't enough. Put him in jail now. I'm like, okay.
And I'm like, wait a second, who's the cult leader here?
Yeah, I'm like, stop giving me orders, man.
And I forgot about as you would expect, if you get fed a bowl of poop, you become sick. So when followers become sick, you have to order them to rest up, get better. I forgot that. So in the span of like couple hours, I fed someone a bowl of poop. Someone was happy. Someone was sick. I forgot about that person, and that person was trying to turn everyone against me in the cold, which it's a moral lesson. Don't feed people bowls of poop.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice when you can learn something playing a video game, right?
Who said video games are educational?
Exactly.
Life lessons.
I want to shout out Mrs. Fitzgerald, who said video games will teach you nothing. Take that. She didn't teach me that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with this game though. It was a hoot. Like I was addicted. I'm making sure everyone's happy, and then I'll run out, go do something, get all my stuff, come back, and I'm like, okay, now build it up again, clean up the area, get all the poop going. But at some point, I'm like, okay, I gotta treat this like I'm a cult leader, so I don't care. Like I'll go out, and everything's gonna be shit when I get back, and then I'm just gonna sacrifice someone, and then everyone will be happy again. Or I was just like, put this guy in jail, leave him there for a while.
And the thing is, like, the art style is so cute, like everyone's bouncing, all that, and then the monster, like the boss of the dungeon that you face, is so horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And also you can do rituals. It's sometimes like a bonfire, sometimes a feast. Like with Cold of Lamb, they introduce a lot, but it's not all at once. Like just when you think you get the gameplay, they're like, hey, have this, do this. You can also do that. So it's not just like a simple, like it's Animal Crossing meets Hades. It just builds on top of that, which becomes even more addicting. So one of the things you can do to increase faith and devotion for people is rituals. And to unlock rituals, it's basically like, hey, do you want everyone to fast so you don't have to worry about them being hungry, or get them a feast, which will also make them not hungry? It's like, how cruel do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the like automatic unlocks you'll get is sacrifice a follower. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So this person's all happy, and Dan, I feel like you're a horror guy. You ever seen Midsummer?
Yes. Solid film.
Spoilers for Midsummer. Watch it. Max, have you ever seen it?
I haven't, but it's been too long, so let's go ahead and spoil.
By the way, are you a horror guy?
Sorry. No,
I am a newly rookie horror guy. I've been dipping my toe in as much as I can.
Nice. If you really want to like horror, and if you're a newbie, recommend watch Dead Meat.
Dead Meat?
I'll put that Dead Meat.
Okay.
Really cool guy. He'll do kill counts, very passionate, funny, lighthearted.
Oh,
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great guy. But so it's like Midsummer, like someone's getting sacrificed, but then they realize when they're getting on fire, like, oh no, this is actually horrible. So in Cult of the Lamb, the person goes in the middle of the pentagram, and it's like, all right, let's do it. And all of a sudden, with these flashing lights, and this like tentacle monster just grabs, and everyone's freaking out. And they even say, like, your followers are kind of freaked out that you sacrificed someone. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of freaked out too. I didn't realize it's gonna be like that. How much faith did I get? That much? Well, wasn't really worth the squeeze. But I don't know my games of like the definitive list, but I'll just give you like Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West. These are the games we're really high on. Right now, number 3 is Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah, it's in my. I haven't played that many. It's probably number 3 or 4, probably behind Horizon Forbidden West, Sifu, and then probably this. And I mean, I didn't get finished Elden Ring yet, but I'm gonna get there someday.
Can you finish Elden Ring?
I haven't rolled credits on Elden Ring yet.
I feel like Elden Ring's just never ending.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
So that is available on, pretty sure, Xbox, PlayStation. I played it on the Switch. It runs really well. It's a little stutter or like a little like lagging when you go back to the cult, but it doesn't interrupt gameplay, so it's more of like a whatever. If I had a review for the site, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd be right along that side. I played on PS5 and it ran great. I mean, I had no complaints besides, it had the stutters when you'd get back and stuff. And like every once in a while in the combat, like you never know if you're aligned right because it's the 2D art style, so you'd be swinging and you're not quite on the same plane. No, that was like my only complaint, but otherwise it was great.
Did you have any like haptic feedback or like DualSense?
I don't think there was, now that I think of it. Which I think I could have been
honestly
cool,
like the thing, like I do want like it was a thing of like Hades on the Switch or PlayStation 5. You only get one haptic feedback, but that's when you pet the dog. And like, okay, that's
I'll
worth
take it.
But that's all from me. So let's move on to you, Max. So you've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I love that game. Have you played the OG Final Fantasy VII?
This is my first dip into the Final Fantasy world. That might be my first JRPG in general.
Oh.
I don't know. I was just like looking through the PlayStation Plus catalog. I'm like, I just want to play something. I want to get immersed into a story. And I've heard nothing but great things about Final Fantasy VII, so I gave it a try, and I was hooked. I'm about, I think, like 5 hours out from beating it, and I'm really, really digging it.
So what do you personally like about it? Because this is like a whole new, not just world as environment, just kind of like gameplay.
Yeah, honestly, the world was a bit like, I was confused about Midgar and the different plates and why. Like that was confusing. I had to read up a bit on that, but the like combat really hooked me. Like being like it's real time, like you hitting buttons to hit people, but also you can do the turn-based kind of system and slow it down, switch between people, make them do special things, go back to whoever, build up your meters and heal. It was super satisfying and actually made me think, and I wasn't just button mashing. I was like strategizing. If I burn this guy, that's his weakness, and then I can heal up whoever. I can heal up Barrett while this guy's staggered, so he won't be attacking, and I can take out this guy's right arm so he won't shoot me with his gun. Yeah, it was really, really cool. I don't know how else to explain it. It was a lot of fun.
Are you understanding the story well?
I think so. Like, I don't know what the heck Sephiroth, what his deal is, but he seems really cool. I know he's not a good guy, but he just seems cool. Cloud, I know he's a soldier. I had to look up what a soldier was. And Mako is the life blood of the earth that they've been using to like super soldier serum for this world, and also like powering the environment. But I don't know what else. Like, there's Midgar, and then there's that other area that Midgar's, but that's all. I just think Midgar's this entire world for the most part.
Because it's a little weird of how it is just the remake is just like 10% of the OG game.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Like I didn't know that before a couple of months ago, or before like when the game came out. I didn't know that, but now that I saw that remake, what's the next one coming out soon? Rebirth. Yeah, that's the next like third of the game or something, and then they're gonna have one more addition to it, which I think is a great way to do it. Like I don't know if they're expanding the story at all, or if they're dragging it out, or how long the first original game is. But I like how it's paced so far.
I hope you can answer this, because I've been struggling with this question for the longest time. When they revealed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or I think it is Rebirth.
Yeah, I think
it's something. Remix. But they said coming next winter. What is next winter?
You know, scientifically, March is the end of winter, so it could be 2023.
But do they mean like, hey, like 2024? Like, I feel like Square Enix lawyer was just like, exactly. Like this winter coming up.
There's like 6 months that could be next winter, pretty much.
It's my favorite date announcement ever, just because of how much it's messed up Mark's kind of future calendar. It's incredible.
Square Enix really screwed me over because I'm like, oh yeah, it's coming like in February 2023. I'm like, no.
Could also be.
Could it? But yet again, like, so I haven't played this game, but they're remixing or remaster. I think it's more of a remaster. A PSP prequel game to the OG Crisis Core, and that's coming this winter.
Which could be any of the 4 months.
Exactly. Or are we just doing by like December? Like, let's.
They're being as vague as possible, and it's really funny.
The first date snows, Mark. The first date snows.
There you go.
I can't wait until we finally get an answer. Like, it's coming March 2023. It's like, all right. And then they're like, we delayed it to March 2024. It'd be like, okay, so next winter?
Yeah, it's a mess, but it's a funny mess, I think.
It is, because it's whoever like Square Enix lawyer is perfect.
Oh,
you don't set like a year, you just set like, hey, next winter.
It's very subjective.
And if fans are getting mad, like, why would you delay it to 2024? You said 2023, and it'd be like, Your Honor, I said next winter. That means 2024.
That's like Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, understanding like this winter, next winter is much more complicated than understanding the story of Final Fantasy VII. I could buy into the Mako and the Lifeblood and Shinra, but it's like, you give me dates and I'm screwed.
I think it's a blast. Shinra's a really cool like entity, evil entity, I guess, and I want to know, like, because if this is only a percentage of the game, like, is it going to be satisfying at the end? Am I going to feel like I've played a full game, or am I going to feel like I played a third of a game?
You will. I played the OG actually like in 2021 last year, but it felt very satisfying at the end. And it was like, okay, if that's what you did for the first like couple hours of the OG game, what are you going to do with the rest? With these big moments that fans want to see get redone, and they make some significant changes. So it's like, what are you going to change?
Yeah.
That, and I always hated Cloud playing the remake, because it's like, wow, you got 3 women fall in love with you, and you're like, meh. Some people feast while other people like myself fast.
How many hours are we talking for the remake? Is it like the length of a full game? Is it more than 10? Is it 15?
It's like 30 hours. That's what I'm at right
It's
now.
like
wow,
30,
for the
40 hours. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
They put the opening section, and I don't mean this in a bad way, like they stretched it out to 40 hours because they add so much background and side story, and like Jesse was basically like a one and done like character in the OG. Like she was there and then boom, like not as significant, but like giving those kind of characters like so much backstory, and you coming really vested, and then like, I don't know what chapter you are, so no spoilers, but like when these big chapters of like, you know what's coming, it's like watching the Titanic. You know the ending, but you don't want it to be true.
That's the question for Max, as someone that's not sort of aware of where it's going. And does it feel like those 40 hours that you've played are all worthwhile, or does it feel like it's been padded out, or does it all feel like, you know, relevant?
I think it all feels very coherent. Like,
right.
if I did, I've spent time doing as many of the side quests because there are spots where you can just explore and do side quests with random characters that you meet. So I think that fleshes out the world and the characters a lot. But if like the story feels very like it doesn't feel like they're just speeding through it. It feels succinct. So I'm not. I don't have any complaints with the story. There's some times where like I am confused about like why is Don Correo what's his deal? I was a little confused about what he just popped in, and I feel like there should have been a bit more building who he was and how dangerous he was, but he kind of just Tifa just kind of shows up there and you try to save her, and then he kind of is gone. But he might pop back up later. I'm almost there.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
I must admit though, you've sort of sold me because I've played Final Fantasy VIII back in the day in PS1. I've never touched Final Fantasy VII, although it's always got all this hype. And it is something that's, although I do have my own backlog of PS5 games to get through, once I'm through them, do you know what? I might check it out. It sounds pretty cool. So it sounds like it's worthwhile to go back to it and play a classic. And maybe kind of get my head around the hype of why people hold this thing in such high regard.
Now, Daniel, did you not play the original Final Fantasy VII because there's so much like hype, and you're like, you know what?
Not my game. Too mainstream. No, I was probably about 3 or 4 years old, but I was like a hipster already. I was like, it's too mainstream. No, I just never played that. I was young and I had a small selection of games. I remember playing Final Fantasy VIII, playing some of that, but that's kind of all my experience with the Final Fantasy series. It's never been a series that I've been sort of into, to be honest. But I might check it out.
For some reason, I thought all the Final Fantasy games were connected, but I guess that is not even remotely the case. So, this is a good one, I think, to start with.
Did you see the titles? And it's like Final Fantasy 4.3.2.5,
Yeah.
and you're like, what is this?
Like,
what's going on?
What is an intergrade? I'm not sure what this means.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love like Final Fantasy. Like they're all separate, but some characters will appear, and it's like, okay, so it's not separate.
Yeah.
And it's like, but they're all different, and I'm like, this is why no one can get into your games. I'm not saying reboot it, but just you confuse me with this winter, next winter. Don't get me started with your whole timelines of these games.
Why is there 17 of these games and none of them are connected? And
It's like I think they're like Final Fantasy, like I think they like skipped numbers as well, and it's like what? And then it's like, and then you got Kingdom Hearts, and we won't touch on Kingdom Hearts.
It's not get there yet.
Yeah, it's like, what if we took all the Final Fantasy characters and their stories, and we're bringing Donald and Goofy, which sounds so stupid, but
people bought it.
It's gonna sell. It's gonna sell.
Yeah, it worked.
But going to another PlayStation 5 exclusive, well, you play the Intergrade, so that technically counts. Daniel, Horizon Forbidden West.
So you boys seem to hold this game in quite high regard here, so I might be in the minority. But
Daniel, I might have to boot you off. I can't hear you. Was that what is this slander?
Right. So my thing with the Horizon series, the first one came out and I saw the trailers and I thought, looks cool. Robot dinosaurs, killing them looks awesome. Futuristic, but also kind of like Stone Agey, looks interesting setting. Let's get it and check it out. First party exclusive and stuff. Why not? Guerrilla's first kind of step up to the plate since the Killzone series. I'm up for this. And then the first 20 minutes, half an hour of that game, when I was playing it, I thought, this is incredible. Jumping about in slow motion, fire arrows into robot canisters and seeing them all explode. This is amazing. And then you get to an hour into the game and you go, is that all there is to it? And then you get to 5 hours into the game and you go, oh shit, that's all there is to it. And then you kind of just force your way through the rest of Horizon, like listening to the boring cutscenes and the weird people with motherboards strapped to their heads and whatever else goes on in that game. And when this game was announced, I was like, right, okay, I didn't hate the first game because I enjoyed the first kind of half an hour before the novelty wore off. Maybe, it's a new generation. Maybe they'll give me whatever was missing from that first game. I don't know what it is, but it just felt there was something missing. When you take other exclusives like God of War and Detroit Become Human and The Last of Us, there's a certain level of kind of quality where they hit everything from acting to presentation to gameplay to story to whatever. Horizon was kind of missing that for me. Like I skipped in the first game, I skipped all the cutscenes. I didn't really care. It was one of those kind of podcast games for me, which we spoke about before, Mark. Like you just stick a podcast on and don't really tune into the telly and just kind of have it on in the background. I wanted the sequel to be more than that, and I'm only about 6 or 7 hours in, to be fair, and so far it's more of the same. I've not had anything yet that's really grabbed me or blown me away. It looks great. It's pretty. It feels kind of cool to kill a couple of robot dinosaurs at first, and then it gets tiresome. I don't care about any of the characters other than Lance Reddick because I like Lance Reddick, but once he disappears, I don't care. Yeah, it's. Do you know what I think my problem is? I think the problem is I've come to this straight from Far Cry 6, and Far Cry 6 was very much a podcast game. I think I should have probably bridged the gap with a good story-based game. Because I've got Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy sitting there that I've not played. Should have probably played that between the two. Because I think going from one open world checklisty game to another, it kind of just seems like the same formula from a different perspective. You know, you're taking down camps, you're climbing up radio towers, you're doing fetch quests, you're collecting resources from around the map, you're upgrading your weapons at a workbench. Like, I could be talking about Far Cry or Horizon. You know, it's the same formula, it's the same blueprint, and I reckon I probably would just need something to break it up. Although I'm 6 hours in and I'm kind of committed at this point, I'm like, do you know what? Let's just get out of the way. But at the same time, should that be the mentality? You're playing a kind of AAA game in 2022, and you're thinking, let's just get out of the way. I don't know. I'm not seeing what everybody else sees in it. What am I doing wrong? Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, no. I mean, I totally like. There are valid points. Like, is it a checklist game? Yes. Do I agree that like the story and characters are not as interesting? No. I love the characters. I love Aloy.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah, Aloy's fine. It's the tertiary. See the dumb side characters that seem like they're all pure inbred, and they just come up with their motherboards days, and they're like, Aloy, we have to get you to do this, and then go and do that. I can't. I'm sorry. They annoy me so much. They seem like they're doing, what's that cosplay thing where people dress up as knights and stuff, and they'll go and like, joust?
Renaissance Fair?
Yeah, that's what I feel like when I'm watching the cutscenes. Like I'm watching some lame Renaissance Fair thing. And I'm like, what is this garbage? Nah, sorry, it's not doing it for me. I'm not hooked at all. I don't care where any of these characters live or die.
So I want to understand your logic. You totally buy into robot dinosaurs, but the people who salvage it and have like headpieces, you're like, you guys look ridiculous.
I find them annoying. I find them an inconvenience, to be honest. And they're also needy. They all want something from you because it's an RPG game. And I don't really want to help any of them. I'm only doing it because the endorphins in my brain that get released when I get that wee checkbox. Like, that's really the only reason I'm doing it. And I don't know, it feels like I'm going through the motions somewhat. I don't have any connection to the game or the characters. It looks nice, but that's kind of it.
You should have played more. You should have played Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, you should have bridged the gap there. Guardians was such a great.
It sounds like it. Yeah, I mean, I'll get round to it. It's on my backlog, but yeah, I think I just chose the wrong game to move on to after playing a Ubisoft game.
I always feel bad for the Horizon series because, of course, Zero Dawn came out. What came immediately after? Breath of the Wild. What came after Forbidden West? Elden Ring.
Mm.
And it was so, like, Forbidden West sold really well. Great reviews. It will get a lot of nominations for Game of the Year. Maybe might win 1 or 2, but won't win the majority. But still, overall success. But when you have Elden Ring, that really kind of like, it's the same thing of like Breath of the Wild, like really advanced and did something different with the open world. And then you have old people like, oh, for like compared to Ubisoft games, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but yeah, like Horizon is a checklist game. I like checklist games. I like a little mix of like, what's going on? But I also want to listen to podcasts like the KeenGamer podcast, which subscribe to us on Apple and Follow us. Yeah.
That was smooth.
Oh yeah, Jess. If you want to edit it out, you can edit it out, or
No,
don't.
no.
Do you? You do you. But Max, are you shocked?
I am shocked.
You're the first time on the podcast,
Sorry.
and you scared him away, Daniel. Maybe it's
Yeah,
the
I'm
Scottish
like,
accent.
is this where I need to be? Is this my place?
Daniel, well, maybe this is like the Scottish accent. Like maybe we're not understanding him. And it's like, no, Horizon is really good. It's nothing like Ubisoft.
Yeah, maybe it's that. I think when I played Horizon, I loved the first one. I just loved the idea of the story and the setting of this post-apocalyptic America, Earth, and like how it got there. And when I learned like what happened, I'm like, oh gosh, that is so cool. And then I liked that this built on it, and I dug the characters. I love Varl. I loved Aaron and Regala and all those people. I felt really connected to them, and I think all the side quests, not all the side quests, I think most of the side quests were really fleshed out, and it felt like it was part of the main story, even if it wasn't. But I think one of the weakest points was Aloy. I think she's kind of a bland hero. She doesn't really have much emotion to her. It feels like she is an AI for the most part, and more of the side characters are what kept me going. But I was more addicted to the gameplay and checking off the list. I'm a big trophy hunter. I got the platinum trophy recently for this game, and I just couldn't put it down for the most part.
Nice. I have a big crush on Aloy.
Yes,
I love you.
It's just not for me in terms of my platinums and stuff. The game needs to earn that from me. Like it needs to earn my time, to put that into earn the platinum. And yeah, Horizon just doesn't do it for me. Horizon is the type of game that I will just mainline the story to get through it and then move on to something else and probably forget about it. I want to like it. It's a shame because I do. I want to like it. I want Guerrilla to do well. It's getting a TV adaptation right as well. So, like, I'm glad the franchise is doing well and it's popular, but I just feel like I'm missing something. That everybody else gets. But hey, what's new? JD cynical guy over here that's been spent too long writing about games. But hey.
Well, it's not Fallout 76 for you, so
That's true. Don't get me started on that.
Hey, all opinions are valid. Well, all like fun, safe opinion. Don't be hateful. That's the lawyer talk of like, Your Honor. He said all opinions were valid. I'm like, damn. But moving on to our final game that we've been playing, I have not heard of this one, Max. Which it kind of feels like a made-up game that I would see in The Simpsons. Midnight Fight Express.
Yeah, this was a game. It was at the Steam Next Fest. It might have been the demo, and I played the demo bit. It felt like Sifu in the combat. I'm like, okay, I'll wait for this to come out, and I was gonna buy it when it eventually came out, or wait for a sale. But it was on Game Pass, so I just started the download, and then I think it's only like 4 hours. I think I got like 30 minutes left of it, but it's fun. It's not great in some aspects, but when you get into that flow state, it's such a good time. And you're going in level by level. It's just kind of like a beat 'em up, but you got combos, you can do different things. There's so many different buttons. And I feel like it throws it all at you at once. But the story is also like kind of interesting. You're in this like city that's just been overrun by just bad people, and there's a bunch of different enemy types. But like, I'd say where it fails is the AI is just rushing at you, and there are a bunch of different weapons, and a lot of the AI in the later levels have guns, and they're just shooting you, and you just feel like you can't get through something unless you get to the guns first. And if you get a gun, then it's also overpowered. I'm having a great time with it, and I'm going to beat it, but there's a lot of things I'm like, I get so frustrated with how the AI just beats you up and doesn't give you a chance to breathe at some points. But I would recommend it if you have Game Pass to definitely give it its time or wait for a sale. But it's been a good time, so far.
Oh, it is on Game Pass? Sweet.
Yeah. It's great. Oh, it's great that it's on Game Pass.
True. Is there any trains?
There are trains. And one of the train levels, I guess like the only train level, you're on top of a train then there's a helicopter that can one-hit kill you, which is kind of a bummer. Like it shoots, and you have to avoid as a timed like sniper shot. You have to avoid, and sometimes that's because there are also objectives you can hit after beating the level, which I have a gripe with. You have to beat the level to then go back and beat the objectives, which you can do for all of them. And there's a bunch of different things you can check off, like getting golden teeth out of every person or something, and it unlocks different cosmetics you can buy. And but the train level, there's a sniper shot that can one-hit kill you, and there's also other things and other levels that one-hit kill you, which is also just feels unearned. Like I feel like I was doing great, and then I get one-hit killed. But you don't start over; you start over from the past like encounter. Then you lose points at the end, which is what I'm always going for.
So if it wasn't actually, I want to know like on Steam, like how much the game is.
Oh yeah, I don't even know that.
It is $20.
Yeah, that seems.
Is it worth $20?
Honestly, I don't think it is worth $20. I would wait for a sale, maybe $10. But I've been writing notes on it because I kind of want to do a review for it, but I feel like the review time is now over. But the stories,
I'd say you can do a review.
I might have to. I'll get some done. I got some notes here, but yeah, the AI is kind of frustrating. It just feels kind of janky at points. But the combat really does shine when you're in a balanced combat situation. When you have a weapon, they have a weapon, or you don't have weapons, or if the AI is the same type as you, but there's moves you learn. Like I can grapple this guy and take his weapon from him, but that doesn't work sometimes with some of these people that it doesn't tell you with. But why did I unlock that with my skill point if I can't do it on all these people? And there's also these bigger goons that you just can't. Like you have to break their guard, but you don't know if they have a guard because they might not have a. It's just some of it feels like, oh, I spent all this time earning this skill point that I now can only use on the basic people. Or like there's these. They throw an enemy type at you every single level. It feels like, and there's people that are like crawling on the ground and they have like claws for hands. Like, well, do I have to just wait for them to attack so I can attack? Why can't I grab them? It just felt some of it just feels weird, and I feel like I haven't earned. Like some of the fighting, or I feel like I should earn more at some points.
Are claws just hands with like really pointy nails?
They are like Wolverine claws. Like they're not coming out, but they have like gloves with claws on them, and they're like crawling on the ground like cats, and they jump at you. I don't know.
Just like Cats, the movie.
Yeah. Exactly like that. No, but the story is honestly one of the best parts about it, which I was really surprised with. I'm like, this is going to be beat 'em up. But the story's like, oh, wow, there's twists and turns and plot twists and stuff. And the dialogue, like there's no voiceover or anything, but the dialogue boxes are sometimes pretty funny from the goons and the people you're fighting and what they're saying. Overall, like if I were to give a score on it right now, I'd be at like a 6 or a 7. 5.
All right, not bad. I mean, it's on Game Pass, so
yeah.
So that is the games that we've been playing. So let's move on to the news. And our first topic, it's a little bit of a doozy because I thought this was going to be the main topic. We were going to do all this, and that was Amazon acquiring EA until they said no. And what I mean by that, so USA Today published a big story, like, ooh, almost knocked over my mic. I'm just fired up. That they claimed that sources heard that they were going to offer, well, Amazon was going to offer to buy EA, which huge. And then CNBC was like, we haven't heard anything. And then everyone just said, like, we haven't heard anything. And then finally ended with USA Today kind of just taking back everything they just said, which was weird because they were like, yeah, we didn't even know if it was true, which not a great thing for USA Today. You know, I don't know news rankings, but I feel like you're legit. But Daniel, I know you were probably fired up about this and been confused. What's your reaction?
I mean, the question for the longest time is who's going to buy EA? We know it's been coming. a lot of folk are predicting that that was going to be Sony's next purchase, because Sony still haven't really matched the Activision acquisition. The only studio they've acquired since then has been Bungie, which isn't on that same sort of scale. However, EA, there was talks that months ago that there was like all sorts of companies going after them, and yes, Amazon was one of them. Apple was another one apparently, and Sony, Microsoft, and a bunch of others. Yeah, I thought when I read it, I was like, oh well, that's happening. And then, as you said, it was kind of like, is it happening? How legit is this? Was it a false report? But I think it still will happen. I think it's still likely. I don't think that the news will have sort of deterred anything. I think, if anything, it's more certain to happen now that it's came out and it's been made public and people have sort of digested it already. It's probably one matter of time before we get it officially going through. If not, the only thing has changed between now and then would be if another big company saw this news and decided to swoop in and trump Amazon's offer. Maybe Microsoft or something could come in and say, listen, we're going to offer you an extra couple of zeros. Anything could happen in that sense. But the point is, EA are going to get acquired soon. I think it's inevitable and it's imminent, whether it's Amazon or whether it's someone else. But yeah.
And Max, this is an interesting point that Dan will bring up of like who is going to, like, of course, Activision, that buyout, biggest one. Do you think anything could top how big that news was?
How big the Activision news was?
Like, I don't know if you remember like where you were.
Oh yeah, I do remember where I was.
But here's the thing: you know how it's how big it is. You have like a story like that has to come with like, where were you? Like, no one's gonna say like, where were you when Sony bought out Bungie? Like, it was like, hey, I'm excited. Like, it's a great purchase, and it's big news. But it's not like, where were you?
Yeah, that is one of those stories. Like, I think I was at work checking my phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is. Like so many thoughts. My first thought was like, oh my gosh, I can't play Overwatch on PlayStation anymore, but that's good. We're okay. But I this consolidating, and I don't see how it benefits gamers too much. I just see how it benefits companies. Like we need more diversity and creativity in video games, and consolidating everything into 4 or 5 big groups. It's definitely not going to be that. It's just going to be more money grabbing, I think.
And what you just saw was Daniel and Max becoming best friends.
We just fused into one.
After the spat, we're now best friends. The Horizon spat.
I've actually got an article. I've got an article on the site on KeenGamer, why the inevitable upcoming war of acquisitions is a bad thing for gamers. And I kind of go through it all in that. But yeah, that was written just in the wake of the Activision acquisition. But listen, EA and Amazon, I don't think either are particularly favoured companies at the minute. Both of them are quite not in the public court of opinion are very popular. So it'd be quite interesting to see they two getting into bed together and seeing what the actual kind of Twitter and Reddit reaction would be to that. Just because of the kind of reputation that both of those companies have. I think it would be, I don't know, maybe a bit of a poisonous marriage, but we'll see.
I feel like we kind of saw a little bit of reaction of that span of like before CNBC kind of debunked it, was everyone's like, wow, match made in heaven of horribleness.
Yeah, match made in hell, yeah.
But I always thought for the longest time that like Apple would buy out EA. Only because I feel like Apple's itching for something, and I feel like that would be the one.
It's like when your parents used to give you pocket money and it would just burn a hole in your pocket and you had to spend it on something. That's like Apple, except it's with billions of dollars.
Yeah, different amount of pocket money there.
But same idea, same basic concept.
Now, Max, did you find out the news like before or after it got debunked? Or heard about it, I guess.
I saw it before, and I'm like, I was thinking like Amazon, like they had their go with that MMO New World, and that's all I really know them for. And I'm like, I didn't know where they were gonna go with EA. Like, are they gonna keep up with their main sports games? Like they kind of have to. Are they just doing this and buying EA to let EA do their own thing just for the money? Or are they buying EA to take control over EA? I don't know a whole lot about what Amazon's plan is, I guess, for gaming.
That is honestly like a big question, because I feel like Amazon wants to get in, but are they in? Yes. Are they big? Absolutely not. Like, even like not to jump too far to the main topic of Gamescom, but Moving Out 2 got announced, and I'm pretty sure Moving Out was only on Amazon. I don't know if it went on to like Steam or anything like that, but it's kind of like, let's just like, it's still there, but not where they want it to be. But that's the fun thing about rumors. They're just rumors. But I kind of like, before we went live, I had this thought, and have you guys ever seen Back to the Future?
Yes, of course.
Oh, no.
You haven't seen Back to the Future, Max?
There's a little, no.
You know what you're doing tonight, right?
I'm watching Back to the Future tonight.
This is what happens to every like first time guest. It's like, welcome to the podcast. Here's your homework.
God, I'll have to type it in. What? Dead meat? Okay, I got dead meat.
Yeah, dead meat. But Back to the Future. So, do you know the story of Back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
So when Marty, goes back in time, he at their like soda shop, ice cream parlor kind of thing, the guy behind the counter is the mayor in the future. So he inevitably like brings up like he's the mayor, and he's like, mayor. And then he's like, oh, I could be the mayor. And that kind of sets on the path like inadvertently. Do you think like USA Today accidentally like time traveled and just put out like the Amazon of like, EA? Oh, well, we flirted about it, but why not?
Yeah.
There's an almanac somewhere that's got all the upcoming video game acquisitions in it, and they're just betting on them all, like Back to the Future 2.
Oh, if that was a thing, gaming acquisition almanac in 2024, Square Enix East by Sony.
Just think of all the KeenGamer exclusives. So if we could get our hands on that, valuable stuff. Again,
not to jump all the way to the main topic, but we'll talk about the Kojima podcast announcement. If we get this almanac, guys, I think we could be on his level.
From the ground up.
By cheating, but yes. I mean, is it cheating if you have the knowledge from the future?
Guess we'll get
but
there.
This is not
podcast.
the Keen Moral podcast.
This is not that podcast.
Yeah, but this is not the Keen Moral Philosophy podcast yet. But moving on. So, Daniel, I want you to take this one because you wrote a great article on KeenGamer.com, which you can check out right now or after the podcast, I guess. All about some bad stuff with PlayStation. There has been some news regarding PlayStation. They hiked up the PS5 prices in some markets, aka not America's prices. And also, there's some lawsuits going around. Help us out, Daniel.
So yeah, it's weird because PlayStation were riding high, they were doing well, people were loving them as people tend to do. They're selling a ton of consoles, even though you still can't just walk into a shop and buy one. Okay, it's easier than it's been, but it's still probably the hardest PlayStation console to get your hands on out of any of the consoles so far. Then they announced that they're giving it a price increase in Europe, UK, Canada, Mexico, Asia, and Australia. The monetary value will vary from country to country depending on the economy, but it's around about 50 quid, 50 euros, $50, whatever. It's insane that this is happening at this time. Normally at this time in a console's life cycle is when you get a price drop. The fact that one, you still can't, you can't walk into a supermarket and pick up one of these consoles. It's not at that stage yet of availability, and yet they're they're increasing the price. Also, at the height of the cost of living crisis. I mean, I know we keep saying that we're not the keen economy podcast, but with the price of everything else going up, fuel and heating and water and everything else, the fact that they've got the cheek to do this, it screams elite slap in the face to me. You know that I'm Mr. Capitalism, so
he's kidding, Max. I don't know if you can hear the sarcasm in this.
I thought I detected it through the thick satisfaction.
Be sarcastic, no. So this disappointing news was immediately followed up by Xbox coming out and doing what I love to see, calling PlayStation out and put them in their place. Microsoft came out and then said, we won't be increasing the price of our Xbox consoles. Now, I don't have really a horse in the console race. I'm not really one to take sides or whatever. As far as I'm concerned, they're all scummy companies. But at the end of the day, they're at a level where only they can call each other out, if that makes sense. Like, they don't care about people like us on a small podcast slagging them off. Really, the only thing that affects them is when the major rival walks up and says, hey, we are doing this. It's the same thing when the shoe was on the other foot in 2013, when the whole sharing games scandal came about with Xbox, and PlayStation did that video where they literally just handed a game to each other, and that was how you shared games on PlayStation. It's the same thing, but mirrored. And I'm absolutely 100% behind Microsoft for doing this, because if they're not going to call it Sony, then no one will. Yeah, and then all of this happened the same week that Sony were announced to be facing a £5 billion lawsuit in the UK. This is being spearheaded by a consumer rights lawyer called Alex Neil. She's apparently won these sort of cases in the past against big companies. She's now going after Sony, and it is based around the fact that for the last 6 years, Sony have been, this is a quote from the thing, ripping people off by charging a 30% commission fee on every digital product and piece of in-game content sold via the PlayStation Store, going as back as far as the last 6 years. These 30%, the sort of total charge for all these 30% charges amounts to roughly £5 million, or £5 billion, sorry, £5 billion. The lawsuit has been advised by another law company in London called Milberg London, and they will be taking Sony to court. The initial reaction was that this is a nothing story. This is going to amount to nothing, because all companies do this. It's not just Sony. Nintendo, Microsoft, they're guilty of it. Apple are guilty of it. Apple actually had a similar case, I think last year or the year before, in the States, where someone tried to sue them for a similar reason, and it got thrown out. It didn't even make it to a hearing. I don't think it was settled out of court. So the initial thinking was that the same thing would happen, that Sony won't actually face any consequences. However, the thing to remember is that case was an American case, and this is a British case, so it's different laws. I think things are actually stricter over here than they are in America with things like this. So there's a chance that Sony could actually have to turn up and face this law team in court. The individual compensation per gamer is estimated between £50 and £200, depending on how much you've spent over the last 6 years. Not that the compensation really matters for me. What matters is the fact that Sony are being taken to court, and also the same week as all this negative price increase news is coming out. It's not a great time to be a Sony employee, I guess, or to be a Sony marketing person anyway. Not a good look.
Man, not a good time to be a Sony PR person.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Thanks, Mark.
Nah, no worries.
What did you make of it? Were you disappointed?
With price increase, yes. Okay. I do have a PlayStation, and B, I'm in America where the price doesn't increase. And sure. I feel like, yeah, you can argue with like the COVID still being a big factor in a lot of things, but it's like, come on.
The important thing to remember, though, they haven't announced an increase in America yet, although it
yet. That is true.
Probably will come. I just think it's interesting that this is the first time ever that being an early adopter has actually paid off. Like normally, you buy something early, you've got no games to play, and you've spent a fortune, and you end up thinking, "Oh, I wish I'd waited." Whereas this scenario, it's kind of you're better off, getting the early doors.
And also, I did want to make the Anakin Padme meme with Xbox. Like Anakin's like, we're not increasing the price of consoles, and Padme's like, and you're not increasing the price of Game Pass, right? And Anakin's like, and you're not increasing the pass. I feel like that's probably more probable. Like Game Pass, yeah, why not? But you're getting your value. Max, I feel like you're a PlayStation guy like myself. What's your reaction to this?
I mean, yeah, I'm lucky enough that I already have a PS5. But it's just like capitalistic supply and demand. But I don't see it hurting the PS5 sales at all because they just can't keep them on shelves. There's going to be someone who's willing to spend an extra $50 just to get a PS5. I don't know, like the compensation lawsuit thing. I didn't know anything about. That's a crazy number, $5 billion, which is just.
And the fact that that's just in the UK. That's not worldwide. That's just in Britain for the last 6 years.
Like, how did it's crazy? Like, it just feels like they're stealing. I don't know. That's just what came to my mind. Like, they're just stealing $5 billion over the course of 6 years, which is crazy. But yeah, the PS5 price hike. I don't think it's gonna hurt them in the long or really that long until there's enough on shelves where they're gonna have to bring it back down.
I do think in terms of optics, it is a big thing that neither of these cases are directly affecting American consumers, whether it's the lawsuit, because unfortunately American gamers aren't getting any compensation from it. It's a British lawsuit, and the price increase hasn't hit America yet. I think if either of those things were to happen in the States, I think that would change things, because that's where the majority of the market is for consumers. But I just think, regardless of where you're from or how it's affecting you directly, just looking at it objectively of how the business is conducting practice, it's negative. It just doesn't come off as any sort of consumer friendly practice. It just seems greedy, especially at the height of the cost of living crisis and everything else. It seems like a big corporation stepping on the working man. Like, we've seen it before in other industries, and it looks like it's happening here as well in gaming, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely not fun. But
I always bring the bad news. I'm sorry. Every week I bring this down.
But this is a great transition because Sony's like, hey, I know all this stuff, but guess what? Last of Us teaser. And the internet's like, okay, come on. Well, okay, at least American audience is like, okay, bring it in. But yes, moving on to our final topic. HBO Max put out a showcase of all their upcoming shows, which is crazy to think about because all the stuff that's going on with Warner Brothers Discovery and the whole future of HBO Max. But if you want to listen to that, listen to 2 episodes back when we talked all about that. I downed a whole bottle of ibuprofen because that headache was killer.
PTSD, man. PTSD
it is.
Flashbacks.
I'm only on that Tylenol extra strength liquid gel. Anyway, so they released the scissor reel, started with House of Dragons and all that. And I'm like, all right, when's The Last of Us? And they knew it was going to be a big deal because they showcased everything. They cut to black. First look. And they showed 20 seconds of The Last of Us, and everyone lost their minds. Max, I'm assuming you played The Last of Us?
I haven't. I played like the first 5 or 6 hours, and then I got sidetracked. I'm going to go back to it after Final Fantasy, I promise. It's on my homework list. So no spoilers.
But bump that up to your...
All right, number 1 above.
Wait, have you managed to get this far without having it spoiled?
Yeah, I don't...
That's amazing.
I know.
That's crazy.
That's yeah.
I know a little bit, like, I think a minor plot point of part 2. But yeah, I got... When I got my PS5, I started it, and then I don't know what I was doing. I just didn't continue, but I got about 5 or 6 hours. I think it was one of the stealth things. I'm like, I don't want to do this right now, and then I never got back to it. So I don't know if I wait for like I guess a week now until part 1 comes out again, the remake, I guess it's called. You can play it then.
Yeah, like the part 1, which full. I'll be talking about that next week. Did I buy it full price? No. Did I get a PlayStation gift card? Yes.
Yeah. I don't because I have the remaster that comes with the PS5. So I don't know if I should just play that and maybe it's the same experience, or is this going to be worth the full $70 experience?
No.
Now
so.
we'll talk about that, and
yeah, we'll get into
not to get sidetracked on that. Do I feel like remakes in general aren't necessary, but it's like the argument of should they remake that? And I mean, I don't mean from an engine. I mean from an accessibility. They just put out a trailer, a couple other things. That's awesome. I would say yes. $70 price point, probably not. But we'll talk about that a lot more next week when I cover that. Yeah. Anyway, so now this is interesting. You don't know. Well, you only played like 5 hours of The Last of Us.
Yep. I got to
know the hype around this.
Yes.
How do you like the teaser?
I loved it. I think my favorite part is Nick Offerman as Bill, because I got to Bill, and Nick Offerman I think is going to be like perfect, because he's just like, I think he's going to fit the role. But the teaser got me really excited. I think that one line Pedro Pascal delivers in the teaser gave me like goosebumps. So that was a cool spot too.
You have no idea what it was.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good.
And that's why I'm like, maybe I'll grow out the beard.
Oh yeah, there it is.
And then it's like, I'm sorry, if like that teaser came out and I'm like, okay, bring it in part 1. Come on, I'll buy you. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Dan. Great. I know you're not mad at me, but I know you're disappointed in me.
Listen, you vote with your wallet, man. You do what you want. I just think cash grab makes sense for me. But anyway, but no, in terms of positivity, I love the way this looked. I'm not that precious with the game and with the story and with the characters to the extent that a lot of people online seem to be. I was quite surprised to go into Reddit and read quite a lot of negative takes towards this trailer. Bella Ramsey looks nothing like Ellie, so it's a different version of Ellie. Like, it's fine. Yeah. Pedro Pascal is going to be a different version of Joel, and that's fine too. I would like to see. I think I would actually like to see an alternate version of the characters instead of trying to sort of faithfully recreate exactly what they did in the game, because Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson's performances are so special and unique to that game that trying to recreate that on screen for the sake of a series would feel a bit crass, I think. I would rather see a kind of alternate, updated version on these characters. But in terms of the tone and in terms of the world, it looks like it's absolutely nailing it. And the sort of gravitas, the performance seems to be there. So I'm 100% up for that. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm so hyped. And just like, I love how HBO knows this is a big deal. It's not like they featured during the sizzle reel. Like, this was and one last thing. So it's coming like early 2023, maybe like January, February, this winter, next winter. I don't know. But I'm like you, Dan. I hope they don't recreate it. I mean, they shouldn't. And that's the magic of TV. You can stretch out. And I mean that, well, kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's not stretching out in a bad way of like, okay, just put this filler in. It's like really expand on it. Like, the world of Last of Us is so rich. Like, now I'm just like diving everything. Like, I just started reading their comic. What's American Daydream or something like that?
Yeah, American Dream, yeah. I think I totally agree with you in terms of the world being rich and stuff. There's more stories to be told, even outside of Joel and Ellie. To me, that's kind of what I wanted to see for part 2. I don't really think we should have continued with Ellie's story. But hey, I'll leave my feelings for part 2 out of this.
Only you don't want to spoil Max.
Yeah.
Yes. But well, I was just going to say, I'm not sure how much they're going to actually cover with this show, though. In terms of the game, the way I would tackle it, I reckon, the game's split into seasons. The game's split into spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Not in that order, but yeah. If they were to do a season of the year as a season of the show, I think that could be an interesting way to tackle it, because it means you're not squeezing in the whole story of the first game into, even if they do 12 episodes for this first season, I don't feel like that's enough to really get into the guts of that 40-hour campaign or 30-hour campaign or whatever the length of the first game was. I reckon the way that you cover it all sort of encompassing without feeling bloated as you split it into seasons, because each season of the game has a sort of significant moment in it that they could sort of be the focal point for each season of the show, and then they could cross the Last of Us 2 bridge when they come to it. And the reason I'm okay with them changing the story is because if it's 100% faithful to the first game, which I love, that's great. But then it probably means they're going to be 100% faithful to the story of the second game, which I hated. So I'm kind of okay with them doing something different, because I'd like to see them approach this story and these characters a different way to the way it went in the games. But we'll see.
I mean,
I'm glad it's happening.
Both first two games. But of course, I don't want to like scene for scene, shot by shot. Because if that's the case, you know what I can just watch, right? Or better even yet, play.
The game.
Exactly. And I feel like how they're going to navigate, like, of course, like video game adaptations to movies, we see a lot, but TV shows is, I don't want to say starting to become a thing. And even though there hasn't been like a one big hit, but I feel like the first success in a while that we've seen from like movies was the Sonic, which I just sounded really old. I'm like, yeah, it's the Sonic.
The Sonic.
The Sonic. The Hedge. But I'm really excited. Pedro Pascal, Bo Ramsey, Nick Offerman, which is crazy because that role was recast because the original actor had to drop out because of scheduling. And I forget the original one, but then it's like, then they got Nick Offerman, it's like, and Gabriel Luna is going to be Tommy.
Yeah.
Can I play part one right now?
I'll have to do a spoiler cast after I beat it.
Yes. Let's go. But that is all the news from the week. It was a lot, and I feel like this is technically more news, but just all in one place. It's their main topic. It's Gamescom. And I don't want to say the surprise con, but not to jump forward to our overall thoughts. I thought this was kind of better than Summer Games Fest. Again, it's the key expectation of low expectations, which I was like, we'll just see like some Hogwarts thing. And then what you get is like, wow, thank God I had my expectations low. But before we get into the overall thoughts, let's go with the announcements, because there's a couple. Max, let's start with you. What was something, and it could be like a new game or just like, I'm going to count announcements as well as like, you saw some new footage and it's like, now I'm getting more hype for that game. What interests you?
I'll have a couple main points. I thought like for just announcements, the game Atlas Fallen looked just super interesting. It looks like a fantasy book like something I'd read and put into a video game form. And it looks like it's going to have some great systems put into place with like the sand and using abilities and stuff, which I love a good RPG. For like more footage, Hogwarts Legacy, that optional like dark arts side quest is super, super cool. I think like the Unforgivable Curses, like having the ability to go learn those or not and like decide your own story in the Hogwarts setting is very, very interesting to me. And I think this game is actually going to be like a really good contender for a lot of people. And then Lies of P is a game that I heard about. I'm like, this sounds so weird. Pinocchio Souls-like, but that trailer was so cool. And it looks like it'll be a game that I'll actually like enjoy playing. I love a good combat system, and it looks like it's got a good parry dodge rule.
And it was funny about Pinocchio game because I didn't really hear a lot. And then I saw footage. I'm like, why is Timothée Chalamet there?
Yeah, that's a good call.
And then I heard it's like Pinocchio. I'm like, oh. And then I saw the trailer. I'm like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure this is from Software?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Take my money. Daniel, what announcements got you excited?
I was glad to see Dead Island 2. I can't believe that game's still happening.
Yeah.
What is the story there? Like, who would have thought that the developer would have went back to this 10-year-old series after doing the Dying Light games? Like, they're so similar, and Dying Light seems like an advancement of Dead Island, that it's like, what do they have up their sleeve that they feel like this is an IP worth going back to? I'm glad it's happening. I was hyped for Dead Island 2. I was in the minority when the first game came out. I really liked Dead Island 1. Not a lot of people did. I think I actually preferred Dead Island 1 to Dying Light, but again, I think I'm in the minority there. But yeah, the trailer looks cool. It looks fun. The visceral sort of violence and the first person melee action and the vibe of the kind of quirky vibe of the world, it looks great. And the graphics look good. And yeah, I'm up for this. It's dropping, like, it's got a release date of like next year, early next year, right? Which is insane that it's got a release date. Not only that it's got a release date, but it's got a release date so soon. I mean, it's great. I almost can't believe it's happening, because I'm like, what? This game was dead, but I'll take it. It was dead. Ha! Zombies.
You know what? I was about to make that joke, but I really didn't want to embarrass Max. So thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome. I'm embarrassed. That's
great.
My shame's all gone.
Oh, it's not like I have no shame. It's just more of like, I'll say something and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? I mean, but games
the
for
other
me,
major, the other,
what were you gonna say?
the other major one for me was Where Winds Meet, but I think you might mention that, Mark, because I know you're a Ghost of Tsushima fan.
Yes, definitely gonna mention that one.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that.
But
that looks cool.
I don't want to say it was the number one, but this is like that announcement I'm most hyped about. Do you guys want to guess?
Callisto Protocol.
Okay, let's have a think.
I don't know you too well, so I'm gonna make a just random guess.
Is it
that is fair? No, I will say
I would be disappointed if it was Gotham Knights.
Yeah, what's the most obvious one?
It's either Gotham Knights or it's High on Life.
No and no. And Max, okay. I'm a huge superhero fan, DC, Marvel, so of course I'm going to be hyped. But no, it is not. So they are looking through the list. They're trying to find out. Max, I'll give you a shot. Just what game do you think I'm most hyped about? Or I should say, like, most surprised / hype.
That'll be something obscure, Max.
Return to Monkey Island.
No, Daniel. One final shot.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
We got a winner.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I was right above it.
And I'm like, what?
That is funny.
What's going on? And then, because all of a sudden it's like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, like the video game. I'm like, wait, really? Coming early 2023? And I'm like, here's my money. I don't even know how much it is. They can just scam me. Like, it's $300 to be like, well, I said, here's my money. So I'm a man of my word. So that game is going to be a multiplayer game. So it kind of feels like the Friday the 13th game, which I liked. But I felt like it was pretty good, but it could have been a little more. So in that game, you're either running away from Jason or being Jason. This Killer Clown, you can either try to stop the clowns or be the clowns. And that movie is ridiculously campy fun.
Been a long time since I've seen it. Yeah.
I want to shoot people with wait, let me damn it. I shouldn't stop myself before saying I want to shoot people with a balloon gun. Please don't edit me out of context. Jess, if you want to edit that so I sound like not insane, that would be great.
Yeah, the trailer for that game, it looks just like a great time. And it's another IP that I don't know about. I have to watch that on the list, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But I've never played a game that is that type of asynchronous co-op thing. I actually just got one of my friends talked me into playing Evolve, which it's pretty fun, but no one's playing it right now. But that's my only reference for that type of game. So I would check this out. I mean, it looks just like a good time.
Well, if you want reference, Dead Meat did a video, Killer Crowns from Outer Space. So
Dead Meat or another
there we
Dead
go.
Meat reference.
This episode is not sponsored by Dead Meat. They don't even know who I am, nor this site. Okay, maybe actually a couple articles they saw, but oh well. I mean, with Gamescom, I mean, you mentioned it, Dan. Gotham Knights. I've been saying like, all right, let's see the villains. Let's see some more IP. Let's not see some like random thugs. Now they're showing out the villains. It's gonna come earlier. Okay, let's go. And then High on Life, which I'm surprised got such a negative reaction from people from what I saw on Twitter.
Oh, did that?
As in, like, oh, what is the same Justin Roiland like thing? I'm like,
Right.
yeah, what did you expect?
Yeah, it's you know what you're getting. Like,
Yeah. It's like, listen, if you're not a fan of that, that's fine. But you can't be like arms in the air like this again. It's like, yeah, that again. But just like, oh shoot, what was it? Trover Saves the Universe. Great game. Even if you have VR, it's even better.
Brilliant VR. Yeah. I'm looking forward to High on Life. I think that trailer. I don't get what people on Twitter are on about. I think that trailer looked really cool. I mean, yeah, it's got Justin Roiland's brand of humor, but of course it does. It's a Squanch Games game. Of course it does. Yeah, but just the trajectory of the swinging around the room while the sludge fills up while you're shooting the thing and the guns are talking to you, it just looks like fun. It looks energetic. It looks like it's got that zaniness from Rick and Morty. And yeah, I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
I like how you feed the guns the ammo and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think another surprise announcement was let me actually get the title, The Expanse, a Telltale series. Which I'm excited because I'm like, oh wow, more Telltale, awesome. But can we have more The Wolf Among Us 2 stuff, please?
Yeah.
Shoot, when is that game coming out?
Wolf Among Us
2.
Is it this year? That is this year, right? It's like November.
I wish. Nope. No. Next year.
No.
For a second, I thought it was gonna be like 2024. But also, like, another. I don't know if it's from the same publisher or whatever, but actually, no. Well, technically, 2K Games. A sequel to Telltale's Tales from the Borderlands. New Tales from the Borderlands. So I'm like, wow, the episodic games are coming back.
Apparently.
Yeah, I might have to check that one out. I've just recently gotten to. I mean, I beat Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and I played Borderlands 3. So, and I really love the comedy and just the dialogue between characters there. So I might have to check that one out.
And also, are you guys excited? It's not that I'm excited for this. I just don't know what this is. The DualSense Edge.
The Pro Controller. Yeah, it looks
so
interesting.
Excited.
I mean, for me, it's going to depend on price. It's probably going to be very overpriced.
Please don't break the bank.
Well, at least Sony hasn't price hiked that yet.
I've been looking into getting another controller because I've only got one controller for my PlayStation 5 at the minute. So if this happens to drop soon, then this might become my extra controller. But it depends on the price. If it's more than 100, I'm probably not going to pay it. And I think it will be. I think 100 is like the minimum. I reckon it will be 120, 150. It might be like 80, 70, 80, maybe around there. But if it's there, then fine. I'm fine with that. But if it's over 100, I think I'll give it a skip.
Fair enough. And the other announcement, which I already said at the earlier in the show, Kojima's podcast. No, listen. Of course, I understand and love Kojima, the legend behind him. But I love he comes on to this presentation. It's like, hey, I brought him back the last time. Now we get more Kojima. Everyone's like, what? And he's like, so I got this podcast going out. And I'm like, wait, what?
No.
like a
Only Kojima.
podcast about your new game, like the cloud Xbox thing, and he's like, nah, just friends. I'm like, how did he get the announcement from things that like casual people would do as like icebreakers? Like, so what's new with you? Like, oh yeah, I got this new podcast coming out. You know, this is different people. It's on Apple Podcasts. So if you want to check that out. Yeah, what's new with you? And I just love like, what do you think what's your thoughts on the podcast? I'm just giddy about it.
I'm always looking to delve into that man's mind. I mean, I think that man's mind is a wonderful, insane place. I would like to sort of mine everything I can from it. I love Metal Gear, and Death Stranding was weird, but I enjoyed that too. I think he addressed the fact that there'll be a Japanese version. Obviously, that'll be the version he records, and then there'll be a translated version in English as well, right? So it might not be, although it won't be his voice, it'll be his words that you're hearing. So yeah, I think that'd be curious. But I would, although as you're saying, Mark, I would prefer to hear a sort of developmental podcast. Like maybe he could talk about whatever the hell he's working on, and he could give like weekly updates or monthly updates or something. But no, it just seems like it's him with his pals shooting the breeze, you know, maybe getting Guillermo del Toro on, or Mads Mikkelsen, or Norman Reedus, or whoever his famous buddies are that week. I don't know, it'll be interesting.
But listen, I'm not against the podcast. I love it. It's just like, that was the announcement. Yeah. I wish this was hyped up like Kojima is gonna be at Summer Game Fest, and that was the announcement of like, so I got this new podcast, and it's like, what else? And he's like, bye.
Yeah, it's the most Kojima thing ever. It's like a Twitter announcement that was made on a stage of this size. It's just kind of insane. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was watching Gamescom, I was when he came up, I'm like, oh great, what is he going to talk about the cloud systems whenever he's doing with Xbox? And I saw Spotify in the background. I'm like, why is the studio branded Spotify? Like, what is this? And he's like, oh, the podcast. I'm like, that was at the bottom of my list of what I was expecting, but I mean,
but that's what if you learn nothing, it's to always expect the unexpected from Kojima. I guess that's the lesson to take away, right?
What do you think his sponsorships will be like? He'll just cut in like, yeah, before we go on, I want to take a shout out. I've been using HelloFresh lately, and it's been fantastic.
Manscaped.com.
Manscaped. They have butt white char. They actually have, I don't know if that or what is it, Dollar Shave Club?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
God, you know what I love, guys? Brook Linen mattresses. Just, I love it's like, what do you guys talked about in Gamescom? Like the new games? I'm like, no, we're brainstorming Kojima's podcast. What's his outro gonna be? So overall, we talked about the announcements of games. Out of all the games featured, does that have to be number one? Just like the immediate, like, I am so hyped for this game. Max, what game are you most hyped about?
Honestly, it might be the Where Winds Meet. That game, like halfway through it, I'm like, this looks like Ghost of Tsushima. The horse riding through the fields and that town and like the fire and like just the systems there. It looks gorgeous. And Ghost of Tsushima, one of my just favorite games ever at this point. And that game, it looks like it's just made for me. I'm very excited for that.
Same. I'm trying to like no release date, no nothing. I mean, I get it. It's a premiere trailer, but just
it's currently, what's interesting is it's currently PC only. It's announced that it will possibly be coming to more platforms in the future, but for the minute it's only planned for PC. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But it is the first game from that studio. From Everstone Studios. It's their first title, so I wonder if that could be an adaptation thing that they need to sort of overcome as they go.
Fair enough. I think for me, I'm surprised how much I'm digging Hogwarts Legacy, because I don't want to like this game. I really don't. I hate J.K. Rowling. I'm not even a big Harry Potter fan, but I'm like, I could play it 3 days early. It could be like the worst game ever. Like it's Madden 23, and you could play it a week early. I'm like, I could play it a week early.
Got to be the early adopter. I have to.
You're such an easy mark.
I know. I'm like, well, I always joke about this, Max. I'm like that the Rick and Morty meme of you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like when we were by that too.
Like when we broke down the announcement of the Last of Us remake, and I'm like, oh my god, like why is this necessary? That being said, I will probably buy this game, so don't take anything I say for merit.
Mark, you're part of the problem.
I am the problem.
Don't let these scummy companies get away with it.
Oh, but $50 is $50. Come on.
So I'm in that same spot. I'm probably gonna pre-order this game because I want to play it 72 hours early, and I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. But it's hard to be when J.K. Rowling says the stuff she does. But the IP of that is one of my it's like my childhood. So and the developers have gone out and said that what they're gonna do for like trans rights and stuff. Like you can make your character trans, I believe, in the game, which is super cool. But I'm gonna pre-order it and I'm gonna play it and I'm probably gonna love it. It speaks to me on another level.
I mean, of course, the developers and everyone is probably against J.K. Rowling for obvious reasons, and the other reason is, hey, please buy our game. We probably had a lot of crunch time. It's been hell. Please make this worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually funny. I didn't know you were that big a fan, Harry Potter. Max. I couldn't.
It's very low light, but yeah.
When you have what's the poster?
It says just Hogwarts. It says Harry Potter at the bottom.
Wow, I love how you have the background is BB1, Harry Potter. Dan has like his PC. You got all these DC comics. Meanwhile, I have like my nephew right here.
That is wholesome. Like I nothing against cute issues. That's fine.
Yeah, Dumbledore. But I wanted. But that's even better. No offense, but
my feelings on that Harry Potter game is kind of similar to how I felt about the Shadow of Mordor games. I'm not a fantasy guy at all. I don't like Lord of the Rings. I don't like Harry Potter. I'm iffy on Game of Thrones, but those Shadow of Mordor games came out, and it was a fun fantasy-based Assassin's Creed kind of clone, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm hoping that this Harry Potter game kind of sweeps me up in the same way, although I don't care about the characters or the world, and it's not really my thing. I hope that I just enjoy what's on offer gameplay-wise, and kind of get sucked in. So I'm looking forward to it.
And just like all the things like, ooh, like, I don't know if they talked about before, like, I can have, like, dark spells and, like, dark magic. I'm like, I want to be bad.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to be on the edge of there. I'm going to be Homelander in Hogwarts. I'm going to just kill everyone if I can. It was Avacadabra, that's the evil death thing, right? I'm going to be dishing out left and right, man. Like, killing all the Waynes. That's my plan. Any game that I can kill children, I'm in. Son of a bitch, I'm in.
I love it. Was like, Mark, you're too easy, but... If Sony's like, hey, we're increasing this to 100 pounds, but you have to kill kids in the next game. I was like, take my money. Hey. Welcome to the podcast, Mac.
I'm going to be as horrible as possible in that game. I always play the evil character and give. I don't know what it says about me as a person, but whenever there's a moral choice, I always go with the evil option. So yeah, it'll be fun.
And this is very random, only because I didn't know Max was a big Harry Potter fan. So we were talking about before the show, when I was reading about the Amazon EA acquisition, I think I still have it up. This banner, dang, it went away. Oh well, but it was this weird advertising for Universal Studios theme park, and it was like, hey. You want to be a crash test dummy?
Oh, yeah.
And they had like buddy, like back to back, like crash test dummies. Like, I just thought that was so weird. And then before the show, I went down a rabbit hole, and one of the tabs I have open is Universal Studios weddings. I don't plan on getting married, nor Universal Studios, but I want to see what the package deal is. Like, maybe it's good. Maybe I want to get married at the Universal Volcano Bay Water Theme Park. Who knows? So back to Gamescom. Daniel, what game are you most hyped about?
I think I'm with Max. I think it's where wins meet. I do also really want to see Dead Island 2. Again, it's more just a shock that game's happening. That I'm like, they must have something there for them to dig it up from the grave and resurrect it. So I'm like, what mechanic or what gimmick are you packaging in this thing that's going to sort of make it worthwhile? That's kind of what I'm curious to find out about that. So Dead Island 2 or where wins meet, because Ghost of Tsushima's amazing and it looks like it's more of that. So I'll take any form of that I can in lieu of a Ghost of Tsushima sequel. So yeah.
Oh, give me that Ghost of Tsushima 2 sequel, please.
I'm all here for it, yeah.
Oh, can't wait.
But honestly, for me, like the game I'm most hyped about, a game I didn't even have any clue about, I want Moving Out 2. I want the fun of just moving out and moving on. Why? It looks cute. I heard the gameplay is actually more of like, what's the Overcooked, but it's a little more mellow. I'm like, all right, I can take that.
I did love Overcooked.
Overcooked gives me way too much stress.
That's why I'm like, okay, like Moving Out, like, hey, it's a little more mellow, not as stressful. Mm-hmm. We got this.
Overcooked is the ultimate test of a relationship. See if you play that with your partner, that's like make or break stuff. That's how you know if you're going to spend the rest of your life with this person or not. See if they can't handle throwing the carrots at the right time, they're out. Do you know what I mean? That's done. So that's a nice barometer for working out early doors. You know how this relationship's going. Get a game of Overcooked together, and it will tell you everything you need to know.
Dan, how did you know about my relationship life? It's all good. And then I'm like, hey, you want to play Overcooked 2? Now, like, what are you doing? You're burning everything. And then we had to talk, and that's why I'm single.
That makes sense. I don't blame you.
But, and one last thing before we wrap up Gamescom, what's your overall thoughts? Daniel, what's your take?
I think as we sort of addressed at the start, I was surprised at how much I seen that I was like, oh, this is nice, this is positive. I didn't expect any surprises, and there was a few. I mean, there's some stuff that was shown, like Callisto Protocol and Arkham Knight. I'm like, I've seen enough, just give me the game. Life of P, I know other people were hyped. I'm not a Soulsborne guy, and just seeing another Soulsborne game, it's like every conference now, you have to have a new Soulsborne game announced. It's like, okay, we get it. From Software's popular. I don't know. It's not for me. But overall, yeah, I thought the new controller was interesting, and there was only one trailer I didn't really like, and it was a Dune Awakening trailer. The reason I didn't like it was because the trailer looked really cool, and then it turns out it's a MMORPG, open world survival online nonsense, and I was like, oh, just make a good story based Dune game. That would be cool. But hey, what we did get story wise, sort of from other titles was interesting, and High on Life looks fun. So I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, awesome. Max, did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought an hour and a half is a very long time to show trailers, and it's definitely started to drag around like the hour mark when things just turned to be more just advertisements and really quick, like 30-second commercials, basically. But I mean, it's all advertisements, I guess. And CGI trailers can only go so far with what a game, especially with Dune Awakening. I'm like, wow, this looks awesome. And then MMO, I'm like, well, this is not what we're getting. So sometimes it feels weak. But
if they didn't show MMO, that would have been my most hype. I'm like, yeah, it's like open world MMO. I'm like,
yikes, almost had me.
It's so close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but otherwise the announcements that did hit really hard, and there was a lot of surprises that I just didn't expect.
I think with me, like when like, hey, we're gonna show some Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights, like WB's like hyping up like this Gamescom. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just see it online. And then it's like a couple more things from Gamescom. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But just seeing the feed of like all the like announcements and footage and trailer and gameplay, I'm like, oh my god, this was awesome. And I feel so bad for Jeff Keighley because technically Summer Game Fest this year was a hit. It'll still go on, but it wasn't at that level that it should have been, especially with no E3. And I feel like, granted, what we saw from Gamescast was announced in Summer Game Fest and like that whole weekend, including the Xbox. But if all of that was there, including the announcements, I feel like he would have had a better show. And granted, I'm not like going to Gamescom. I'm like, oh, are we getting a Ghost of Tsushima 2 announcement? And it doesn't happen to be like, well, what the hell was that for? Because I'll admit, I really wanted a God of War Ragnarok like date announcement during Summer Game Fest. I didn't get it. I tried not to lower the score because of that, but I was like, okay, it lowered 0.5, but out of 10 Jeff Keighley's, Max, what would you give it?
I would give Gamescom 7 Jeff Keighley's.
Daniel?
I'll go 7.5 Jeff Keighley's. Let's just
what half
are
you
half?
taking?
Right, left, up, or down?
Right down the middle. Right down the middle.
Oh, that's smart. So it's like you get like a little thin version. It's like screen tree, so like you still get the whole thing, but
hopping around like kill me. Yeah, that kind of look.
Great.
He's like, kill me. But I have my good friend Kojima. Maybe the other half will be his co-host.
That would be a show I'd watch.
It's the Kojima podcast with Hideo Kojima and half of Jeff Keighley. The left half.
He's like, but while I'm screaming in pain, have you guys heard about HelloFresh? It's a quick, easy food delivery service that you can make at home.
Was The Rock, remember his advertising thing for his energy stuff?
So
was that at Gamescom?
Was Game Fest.
That was Game Fest.
Yes, Game Fest. So I wonder if he might be Kojima sponsor, because if Jeff Keighley puts him in touch with Dwayne, then there you go.
God, I always think about that. Like, so weird. And listen, again, as I established, huge superhero guy, so hyped for Black Adam, but just like, it's not even a new trailer, Black Adam. Why are you showing the whole thing? Why are you shirtless in the gym?
Exactly.
Why are you advertising your energy drink at a gaming show? It's not even like a gaming energy drink like G Fuel or whatever it is. It's just like, yeah, this has creatine. And I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't think it has creatine.
If you're playing KeenGamer podcast bingo today, then you've probably got a full house, because Mark's talked about When is Winter and the Rock advert. So that's two of the weekly rants ticked off.
I reference Keen Economy.
Yep.
The podcast.
We should make a drinking game out of this.
You'll be dead.
I'm Scottish. I'll be fine. You guys will be dead.
I'll be like, I always like to say, like, at the top of the hour, I think I mentioned on the podcast, I'm 100% Irish. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, does that mean you get to drink a lot? I'm like, no, I have one beer and I'm super sleepy. I'm bloated.
That's because of all the painkillers, Mark.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't want to feel anything, Dan.
Hey, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
It's getting dark.
On a dark note, we want to thank everyone for listening to the KeenGamer podcast. We had a great time. Max, you had a great first episode. I hope I didn't scare you off.
This was a blast. I had a really good time.
yeah, it's gonna be really awkward when we get off line, and he's like, never contact me again.
Searching for new jobs.
Can I join Keen Economy?
No, Mark will follow you.
Oh yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, what's the difference between pound and dollars? It's like, you don't know that and you want to join the site? I actually did see this one tweet. It's like, whatever is more in value, like if dollar becomes more valuable than like a dollar, if a dollar becomes, Jesse, want to edit that one out. If a dollar becomes more valuable than a pound, then it's officially called soccer.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was good.
And I was like,
that.
yeah. I'm like, wait, I don't have any personal investment in this. I'm a dumb American. But
I'm okay with calling football soccer. I'm not okay with calling football because that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, American football.
It should be called handy throw ball. Kick it sometimes, but mostly hold it. Because that's
handy ball is something that you should not search on the internet. Trust me. But thank you so much for listening, guys. Max, where can the lovely people find you?
Oh, yeah. I have a Twitter.
I should mention that. You have a Twitter. Well,
I don't post anything to Twitter, but I have one, and I might be making a new like gaming centered Twitter. But at Max_Lemke on Twitter, and also Instagram at Max_Lemke17.
Awesome, Daniel. Where people find you?
You can find me at the Pop Shock Podcast on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Spotify and all those places. If you want to listen to me rant about comics and superheroes and some gaming stuff, you can find it there. You can also find my stuff on KeenGamer.com. I am currently polishing off a review for Scathe, a Doom clone-like game. With bullet hell elements, which is out the last day in August. So by the time you hear this podcast, the review should be live on the site. So keep an eye out for that. And you can follow me on Twitter at DanBoyd95 for any new articles. They usually get posted there.
Awesome. You can find so many more articles on KeenGamer.com, guides, news, review, opinion pieces, all the fixins. Please search us on Spotify if you're not already listening to that on that platform. Rate us 5 stars. It bumps us in the charts so more lovely people like yourself can listen. And also, we are new to Apple Podcasts, so give us a like, subscribe, 5 stars, same thing. More lovely people like yourself can listen. I am your host, Mark Callahan, and I hope you have a good night.